Have you ever met someone who simply refuses to post pictures on social media? While the whole world shares their breakfast, sunsets, and even small frustrations, there are people who choose silence. They don't disappear. They just decided to exist differently. And the interesting part is that this choice rarely comes from shyness. It often comes from a realization. There's a kind of freedom that only exists when you stop needing to be seen. Maybe you felt this too. That strange fatigue when you open an app, scroll endlessly, and feel that even though you're surrounded by thousands of faces, nobody is truly showing who they are. That odd feeling that everyone seems to be living a perfect life, except you. And for a second you think, should I also show that I'm fine? That's where the trap begins. Seneca once wrote, "He who lives for the eyes of others will never be free." These words, spoken 2,000 years ago, perfectly describe what we live today. Social media has become the new Colosseum of vanity, a place where everyone tries to prove they're winning, even when they're exhausted or lost inside. And the price of this constant performance is high, our inner peace. I've lived through this myself. For a long time, I felt I had to share every small victory. A trip, a project, a nice quote. Everything became a post. But the more I showed, the less I felt. It was as if the experience stopped belonging to me the moment I made it public. And I realized I was living more for the reflection than for reality. When you decide to post something, pay attention to the process. You don't just share, you perform. You think about the caption, fix the light, predict how others might react. And when you finally hit publish, that moment is already gone. It's been captured, edited, and handed over for judgment. The experience stops being a memory. It becomes content. Psychologists call this social performance anxiety. The constant fear of not looking interesting enough, happy enough, or successful enough. It's the feeling of being watched, even when no one's looking. Every like becomes an invisible applause. Every comment a reminder that you exist. And the brain, addicted to dopamine, keeps asking for more. More attention, more validation, more applause. Have you noticed how hard it is not to check who viewed your story? Or that urge to delete a post because it didn't get enough likes? It's not just vanity. It's emotional conditioning. The danger is that it quietly teaches you to measure your worth by other people's reactions. But some people break that cycle. People who one day realize they're tired of performing, tired of turning every emotion into a show, tired of living moments thinking only about how they'll look on screen. Those people discovered something psychologists call psychological ownership. When something is truly yours, you feel an intimate bond with it. A memory, an emotion, a small victory. But every time you expose it, that bond weakens. Your joy becomes public opinion. Your pain becomes entertainment. And what was once pure now belongs to everyone else. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you that matters, but how you respond to what happens." Those who step away from social media aren't running away from life. They're responding wisely to a world that confuses visibility with value. They don't need to post to exist. They just need to feel. I remember the day I decided to go 1 week without posting anything. At first it felt strange. I'd grab my phone by habit, not knowing what to do. But after a few days, something shifted. I started to notice what I used to overlook. The sound of footsteps on the street, the smell of coffee, conversations without hurry. It felt like the world had come into focus again. And that's when I realized what I'd lost. Presence. Seneca once said, "Nothing is more powerful than he who masters himself." That's exactly what happens when you leave the stage and return to the backstage of your own life. Suddenly, time slows down, comparisons fade, and you rediscover something rare, the peace of not needing to prove anything. Maybe you felt that urge too, to disappear for a while, to silence the noise so you can finally hear yourself. But then comes the fear. What if people forget me? The ego fears being forgotten, but the soul needs it to breathe. Silence doesn't erase who you are. It reveals who you've always been. There's also a hidden effect that few people talk about. When you stop posting, you start to see who truly cares. Who checks in without needing an update. Who asks if you're okay, not because they saw something, but because they genuinely miss you. That's when your relationships reveal their truth. Real friendships remain. Superficial ones fade away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "True friendships are quiet and discreet." And he was right. The deepest bonds rarely need an audience. They grow through presence, not performance. Modern studies confirm what ancient wisdom already knew. People who take regular breaks from social media experience less anxiety, greater focus, and higher satisfaction with life. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. They knew the mind needs stillness and the soul needs space to breathe. Noise kills reflection, and without reflection, we live on autopilot, reacting, posting, repeating. There's something almost spiritual about choosing silence today. In an era where everyone shouts for attention, staying quiet is an act of strength. While most chase visibility, the wise seek meaning, and those who seem invisible are often the most connected to themselves. The ancient Stoics called this Ataraxia, a deep state of calm that comes when you stop depending on external things to find peace. Maybe our modern challenge is to find Ataraxia in the middle of notifications, to stay connected without being consumed, to use technology as a tool, not as a mirror. Have you ever noticed how liberating it feels to live a moment that doesn't need to be photographed? To eat something delicious and not feel the need to post it? To travel and keep the sunset only in your memory, not on your feed? Those little choices give life a flavor that the digital rush has stolen from us, because what isn't posted often becomes what transforms us the most. And this isn't about hating technology, it's about mastering it. You don't need to delete your accounts. You just need to choose what deserves to be shared and what deserves to stay sacred. Not everything must become content. Some experiences were meant to be lived, not displayed. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "Withdraw into yourself. There is a source of strength that will never dry up if you dig deep enough." That's the essence of introspection. While the world tries hard to appear, the wise strive to understand. They seek less applause and more purpose, less exposure, more depth. When you allow yourself that kind of retreat, you discover something powerful. Being unseen doesn't mean disappearing. It means being whole. Silence isn't absence, it's presence. Privacy isn't isolation, it's freedom. So next time you meet someone who doesn't post, who prefers anonymity, or who's simply chosen to live outside the digital spotlight, remember this: they're not hiding. They just realize that life is much bigger than what fits on a screen. They've learned the value of living without witnesses, of having joys that don't need likes, of building peace that doesn't depend on applause. And what about you? Have you ever felt the urge to step away for a while? To mute the noise and reconnect with what really matters? If this message resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. And if you want to keep growing in serenity and self-mastery every day, subscribe to Stoic Spring. Here, every video is a reminder that the deepest power doesn't come from being seen, it comes from self-knowledge. Because in the end, maybe the greatest luxury of the digital age is silence.